Okay, let's just start with a really big question. What if your job was optional? I don't just mean automated away. I mean, what if you simply didn't have to do it to survive? It's a massive idea, right? One that kind of changes everything. So let's dive in. In this explainer, we're going to explore a fundamental shift that's already beginning. We're talking about the dawn of a post-labor economy, where that daily grind we all know so well could become a thing of the past. You know that basic social contract we all live by? You trade your time for a paycheck? Well, that entire system is on the brink of a complete and permanent overhaul. We're heading towards a future where your survival is no longer tied to having a job. But, to really get where we're going, we first have to understand where we are. Why do we work 9 to 5? It feels like it's been around forever, but it's actually a pretty recent invention, and it was designed for a very specific reason. For most of human history, nobody clocked in. We worked to solve immediate problems, finding food or building shelter. Then the Industrial Revolution came along and flipped the whole script. Suddenly, factories needed tons of people to show up on a strict, predictable schedule. And just like that, the 9 to 5 was born. Not for our benefit, but for the efficiency of the machines. And to get people ready for this new factoring life, we had to build systems to train compliant workers. Think about our traditional school system. The bells, the rigid schedules, the rows of desks. It was all designed less to spark creativity and more to find out who was really, really good at following instructions. It was the perfect training ground for a future factory floor manager. And that created the cycle we're in today. You go to school and learn how to comply, you get a job to trade your time for money, and then you take out loans for a house, a car, and the lifestyle you're told you should want. And boom, you're trapped. That fear of losing it all is the very fuel that keeps the whole system chugging along. But that whole era is now coming to an end. So if that old system is breaking down, what's going to replace it? Well, we're looking at a technological reset on a scale that is almost impossible to wrap your head around, and it's being driven by companies building a radically different kind of world. Let's just try to grasp the scale here. Some analysts look at a company like Tesla and they don't see a car company. They see a bet on a $10 trillion future. And the really interesting part isn't the number, it's why. This is about so much more than just selling cars. It's about how all these incredible technologies are starting to connect. When you have advanced robots being powered by almost free renewable energy, getting materials from space exploration, what happens? The cost to produce almost everything we need, transportation, food, housing, it just plummets. It heads right towards zero. And this is the absolute key. When the cost of not just surviving, but living a pretty good life drops to nearly nothing, the entire reason we have mandatory 9 to 5 jobs just evaporates. The trap just disappears. So this all leads us to a concept that used to sound like pure science fiction, but it's quickly becoming a really practical conversation. And that concept is Universal Basic Income, or UBI. The idea is actually pretty simple. If robots and AI are out there creating all this new, unprecedented wealth, then that wealth has to be distributed somehow. UBI is the proposed mechanism for that. It provides everyone with a financial floor to cover all their basic needs, no questions asked. And this really shows you the heart of the change. Today, for most of us, work is mandatory. We have to do it to pay the bills. But in this new world, work becomes optional. It becomes something you do for a purpose. You do it because you're passionate, because you're curious, or because you want to contribute something to the world. The whole motivation just flips on its head. So, what does this all mean for us, for our sense of self? It means we are on the verge of completely redefining what it even means to be a valuable human being. So here it is, the most important point. In this future, your value isn't measured by the hours you punch on a clock. It's not about the tasks you complete. Your value is your purpose. Because when you're not constantly worried about paying rent, the only thing you'll really crave is a reason to get out of bed in the morning. And that's where things could get incredibly exciting. Just imagine an explosion of human creativity. People finally having the freedom to garden, to create art, to invent things, to build communities, or to tackle huge problems in science, all without the constant pressure of needing it to pay the bills. And don't worry, progress isn't going to stop. In fact, it might even accelerate, because the people who really push humanity forward are the obsessed ones, right? The people who would be doing that work anyway, driven by some internal fire, not by an external paycheck. Which brings us to one final, very personal question.
In a world where the daily grind is over and your survival is guaranteed, what would you choose to do with your time? What would be your purpose?